fun. So talks money, the future's a lie. Grab your coffee, let's take a ride. It's wealth and wisdom, time will rise. Author, investor, educator, team sharing the wealth, building things you should do. From trust to breaking, it's all a must. Your guide to wealth is money to trust. Legacy life, secure it right. Dreams take shape with every insight. Wills and assets, life insurance plans, building for your future with expert hands. So talks money and more, building wealth with knowledge galore. Asset protection, plans to grow, to read and watch your dreams overflow. Saving today to trust for life, breaking generational wealth divides. Healthcare directives, banking tips, we're here to help you function eclipse. Saving today to trust for life, breaking generational wealth divides. Healthcare directives, banking tips, we're here to help you function eclipse. And now it's time to run, so wisdom's your return. Invest, protect, and thrive for sure. Signing off is all talks money and more.
Good morning, and welcome to another edition of So Talks Money and More, where we are always educating, enlightening, informing, and empowering our community. I am your host, Dr. Sabrina Edmon Williams, educator, author, and investor, opening minds and closing contracts. I am so noted. Now, before we get started this morning, I need you to do three things. Do three things for me. First of all, I need you to call a friend. I need you to text a family member, and I need you to share this broadcast, because today's conversation, if you were with me last week, you know, we had a very lively, informative, necessary conversation. Well, today is part two. It's not just about one young man. We have many young men to talk about this morning. It's not about one family. It's not about one tragedy. Today's conversation is about the future of Black America. So I'm going to give you a minute. Go ahead, pick up that phone, call somebody, text somebody, let them know that Dr. Williams is on the air, and it is time for So to start talking money and more. Now, I got to start the show with a simple question, and that is, if we don't reclaim our youth, who will? Let me ask that question again, because some of y'all are a little slow getting up this morning. You might just be tuning in and joining me this morning. So the question on the table this morning is, if we don't reclaim our youth, who will? Reality is, every time we lose one of our young men to violence, prison, addiction, hopelessness, or the streets, we are not just losing one person, a person. We're losing a father, a husband, a business owner, a mentor, taxpayer, community leader, voter. We are losing a part of our future. And at some point, we have to stop asking what happened to our young people and ask the real question, which is, what's happening to us? Now, again, if you're just tuning in this morning, we got to talk about some things this morning, and it may make some of us a little bit uncomfortable, and that's okay, because the point is to spur us to action. I want you to get so uncomfortable, not that you don't tune in, not that you simply talk about what we're talking about, but that it spurs us to action. Because the reality is, every lost child, it's not a family problem. It's a community emergency. Every time we lose one of our children, it's a community emergency. Now, this past week, the internet and, the airwaves have been in an uproar about a case out of Texas. And I know most of you guys already know what I'm talking about, the Karmelo Anthony trial, where the young man, I think it was about 17 years old, a couple of years ago, was involved in an altercation at a track meet, which resulted in another student being stabbed who ultimately passed, and this young man was arrested. So last week, he was actually sentenced to 35 years in prison for this track meet altercation. Again, at the time of the incident, this young man was only 17 years old, but under Texas law, he was tried as an adult. Now, although his claim was self-defense, the jury rejected that claim. And one of the things that stuck out about that case, reports have confirmed that there were no Black jurors that served on the final jury panel. Now, I want you to listen to me close. Let me say something that may make a few people, as I say, uncomfortable. Even though many folks in our community are angry, some are even hurt, and many believe that sentence was excessive, many may even believe that race played a role in the sentencing. And whether you agree or disagree, I'm not here to debate that this morning. That is not what this show is about. But one thing is undeniable. This case became racially polarizing almost immediately. Think about it. You have a white victim, a Black defendant. But here's the question I want us to wrestle with. Were we really surprised? How else did we think the trial was going to end? What did we think really was going to happen? An all-white jury in Texas, of all places. Again, a Black defendant, a white victim. All we got to do is look back in history. History tells us exactly why people were concerned about how the case would be viewed. Now, before somebody starts ringing this phone and, formulating opinions about whether or not Dr. Williams is, promoting or defending violence, let me just say that is not this show. That is not my aim. I get it, you guys. A young man is deceased. A family is grieving. Nothing about that should ever be minimized. Whether it's my child, your child, or someone else's child. But we can simultaneously acknowledge tragedy and still have an honest conversation about the criminal justice system. We can do that. Now, you can mourn a victim and still question the system. You can do that. The question that many people are asking is, would the outcome of that trial have been different if the races were reversed? Think about it. If the victim had been a Black kid and the person that was accused was a white kid. Now, I don't know. And before we all start to, share our opinions, you don't know either. None of us really know. But what I do know, America has a long history of viewing Black youth differently. Same behavior is often interpreted differently. The same fear is often interpreted differently. The same actions are often interpreted very differently. And that reality didn't just start over in Texas last week. That reality has existed for generations. Whether people want to admit it or not, that has been our reality. In America, innocence has often depended on complexion. Sadly, that's the truth. That's our truth here in America. Now, many Black Americans immediately start to look at other cases. As I understand it, about 3 years ago, there was a very similar case over in Texas where the defendant was white. And he did not, it involved a stabbing, as I understand it, but he did not receive the same severe sentencing that this young man did. I think he may have gotten about 10 years, whereas this young man was sentenced to 35. First time offense, no criminal history or anything like that. Straight out the bat, 35 years. You're guilty, and we'll see you when you get 55. That's that. Now, there was another case you may recall back during the George Floyd era that we had here that resulted in a lot of the Black Lives Matters protests. And there's a young man by the name of Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't know if you guys remember that name, but the significance is this kid was 17 years old as well. And his actions during some of the protests actually resulted in 2 people losing their lives. And the same defense claim was used then. He felt that his life was being threatened. It was self-defense. And a jury accepted his defense. He walked free. And in fact, not only did he walk free, if you guys remember correctly, there was an outpouring of support for this young man to the point where, if I remember correctly, he raised something like $500,000 in donations toward his legal defense. Now, although these 2 cases are not necessarily legally identical, different states, different facts. I do get that. Different evidence, different circumstances. Many people see a larger pattern. They see one teenager's fear viewed as reasonable. You're scared, so it's reasonable that you would act to defend yourself. However, another teenager's fear is viewed as criminal. Now, whether that perception is accurate or not, it exists. That's the reality. It exists, and perception matters because they shape trust. And unfortunately, many people do not trust our criminal justice system here in America. The question that hit me, though, because Dr. Williams, I try to look at what's seen, and sometimes I'll even go deeper. And there's a question that really stuck out to me and hit me real hard this week. And a lot of people, again, were outraged at the outcome. I don't know why that was surprising. Again, an all-white jury in Texas, Black defendant. Everybody's talking about the jury. But few people are asking the question, why was the jury all white? That's the question. Why was it all white? Because we love talking about verdicts, but we hate talking about participation. Have you guys heard Dr. Williams talk about that? Say that word before, participation. We complain about jury decisions, then spend years trying to avoid jury duty. There is a connection here. We dodge summons. We postpone service. We look for excuses. I don't want to be bothered with that. My toe hurt. My this is wrong. My that's wrong. I don't want to do that. I got something else to do with my time. But then we turn around and become outraged when people who don't look like us are making decisions that affect people who do. Can't have it both ways. We cannot have it both ways. You cannot abandon the jury box and then complain about who is sitting in it. The question becomes, why aren't we sitting in it? Civic engagement, it's not just voting. Sometimes it looks like jury duty. Let that sink in. Now, I got to make a transition here because I'm going somewhere. I don't want you to tune out on me. I need you to lean in because we're going to bring this thing on back home. Before you start to think that this show is about Texas, It's really not. It's about a bigger issue that we have right here in America, and specifically in Black America. But I got to bring this thing right on back to Mississippi, because that's where we are. We're broadcasting live out of Jackson, Mississippi, WNPR 90.1 FM. Now, while we've been discussing what happened in Texas, another story that is troubling my spirit has been unfolding right here in our backyard. And this particular story should shake all of us, you guys. Every parent, grandparent, pastor, teacher, coach, mentor, community leader listening to this show this morning. And if they're not listening, call them, text them, wake them up and tell them to turn the radio on, because we're talking about some stuff this morning that our community needs to hear. Now, this story is not just about one young man. It involves multiple young men, and unfortunately, from the same family. And it forces us to ask a very painful question. What are we doing to save our sons? What are we doing to save our sons? And you guys, that one hits me differently because I don't have daughters. I have sons. The question is, what are we doing to save these young men? What are you talking about, Dr. Williams? Recent reports a couple of weeks ago indicated that 17-year-old Cordarius Hobbs was arrested following an incident involving two people who lost their lives, and a deputy was actually shot in that incident down in Simpson County. Now, authorities have charged this young man with multiple offenses, including capital murder, armed robbery, burglary, and home invasion. He went before the courts, bond was denied. And I got to be careful right here, because I do want us to understand that what we're saying and what we're talking about right now is not an attack on anybody. This is a very, as I say, concerning and sad story, because it involves one family and another incident that happened just a week later involving his brothers, two of his brothers. I don't know about you guys, but last week my phone was blowing up with a quote unquote blue alert, And honestly, I saw it, didn't know what was going on, but my phone kept going off. Blue alert, which, as I understand it, actually means that there has been some type of incident involving a law enforcement officer, and they are actively looking for the individual or individuals that were involved in that particular incident. Okay, so as I understand it, two brothers of Mr. Hobbs were allegedly involved in that incident and were subsequently arrested. And an officer, unfortunately, was injured during that particular incident. Now, I don't know the status. I hadn't really been following the case that closely, so I'm not sure how that particular person is doing. And it's been interesting to see that unfold because, social media can be brutal. They can be brutally honest, and then they can be brutal. And if you do anything, they're going to dig up the dirt and find you. So a lot of people are saying, this officer got what he deserved, and, he was terrorizing the community and all of that. I can't speak to none of that, you guys. And that is not what this is about. That is not what this is about. Again, it's concerning when you have young Black men that are involved in these type of incidents. And my heart this morning goes out to the family of not only those that were involved, condolences to those who lost their lives, but also to the parents, particularly the mother of these young men. Again, I'm a mother of sons. I don't know that family. I don't know The parents, I don't know what they did or didn't do, what type of sacrifices. I don't know what they did or didn't teach their children, because again, you go to look at the commentators, and the first thing they say is this is an example of bad parenting and the people didn't do this and that and the other. But I'm going to give you another perspective on this. And this is the Dr. Williams perspective. Before we say that, for all of us that are really parenting, have been in this battle called parenting, and have done what we are supposed to do, if we go to the word, it tells us as parents to train up a child in the way in which he should go. What it does not say, there is no guarantee that he will go that way. It says your job is to train them in the way in which they should go. There's no guarantee that your child is going to follow that training. So before we attack the parents, unless you know for a fact, which I don't know, so I can't speak on that, I will say this: parents can teach their children, parents can guide their children, parents can pray over their children, parents can sacrifice for their children. But at the end of the day, these grown folks, these children, these grown children, I will say, because that's what they are, they still make decisions. That's the reality. And unfortunately, our young men in particular are making some decisions that are not very good for their lives. They are not making very good decisions. Every child has free will, even the ones that are raised well. Ask me how I know. That's a whole show that I could do on that. Every one of them has free will, even the ones that are raised well. So get your mouth off that. Get your mouth off that, okay? Here's a community question for you. Here's a community question for you. Here's what I know. We got to start addressing something, and something that causes our community to question something. When young men continue showing up in our headlines, what's going on? What's really happening? Is there something bigger happening? And I would say yes. This is no longer an individual problem. This is a community problem. Because somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we are losing too many of our young folks, particularly our young men. We are losing them to violence. We're losing them to gangs. We're losing them to prison. We're losing them to hopelessness. We are losing them before they even discover who they were capable of becoming. And the reality is, it's a problem for all of us, you guys. We got to stop acting like that's somebody else's problem. It's a problem for all of us. Why do you say that, Dr. Williams? Well, for those of you who have daughters, if all of our young men are locked up, dead, or, otherwise not available, who are your daughters going to marry? It's a problem for all of us. If these children continue to run around and terrorize the community, it's a problem for all of us. It's not just somebody else's problems. When our sons become headlines, our young men become headlines, we have already failed them somewhere along the way. We have failed them. Yes, we have. And here is the point that I need every listener to hear this morning. People are telling us we need more voters. Think about that. We just did a whole voting rally a few weeks ago. We need more participation, more engagement. Well, every time one of these young men enters the prison system, our community loses something. We lose talent. We lose leadership. We lose economic power. I had to say that because I know some people, I've even had people to say, well, I thought your show was called So Talks Money and More. Well, we are talking about money because every time we lose one of our young people, we are losing economic power. We're losing civic power. And in many states, we lose voters. We're losing voters. Imagine this. We are fighting for our turnout, voter turnout, while simultaneously losing future voters every time one of these young men either loses his life or goes into the prison system. We are fighting for representation while losing future representatives. We are fighting for stronger communities while watching parts of our community disappear. We got it wrong, you guys. Prison sentence doesn't just affect one person. It affects the future of an entire community. The future of an entire community. Now, why would you say that, Dr. Williams? Well, I say that because the reality is, you say, well, it doesn't affect me. That's not my son. That's not my child. That's not my problem. Well, it does affect you. If you're a tax-paying citizen, guess what? Who has to take care of these folks while they're locked up? The tax dollars. Okay, so it affects you. Whether you want to admit it or not, it does affect you. If these children get out there and they decide in their underdeveloped mind to do something criminal and you happen to be in the vicinity, you could very well be the victim. If not you, your child. So it does affect you. It affects all of us, and it certainly affects our community. It affects all of us. Now I'm looking at the clock, and I know I got to start kind of winding down here, excuse me, because we have to take a break. And this thing, I tell you, y'all, when it gets good to me and when I get ramped up, I look up at that clock and my time is running down and it's running out. But I will say this. We're talking about problems this morning. But on the other side of this break, I need y'all to come back because we're going to be talking about solutions. Because the reality is there is something that we all can do. We all should do. We have got to stop treating this like it's someone else's problem. Because nobody, hear me well, nobody is coming to save us. This is our problem, our community, and we have got to step up. I told somebody yesterday, I was actually attending the meet and greet for PJ Morton, who was in our city yesterday, and engaged in conversation with the gentleman that was in front of me. And we were actually talking about, after he found out I was an author, he says, well, I have a book in me. And I said, I don't know about you, but I heard something that Sister Bernice King said several years ago about dying empty. And what that means, you guys, is a lot of us take a lot of the knowledge and, the wisdom and the things that have been entrusted to us to the grave. I think we get that wrong. I think those things have been entrusted to us for us to pass on to others so that when we leave this world, there is nothing that we're taking with us. We can't take none of this stuff with us. That's why Dr. Williams tries to teach our community about estate planning and getting our affairs in order. I went to a service on Saturday and I didn't see that person take anything with them. We got to get this right. And that does not just include physical assets. We're not just talking about the money, the land, the cars, the clothes, the houses. We are talking about what has been entrusted to us, our knowledge, our experience. Those are things that need to be left behind because these young people need that. Now, I see my engineer is back in the studio, so I'm going to wind down for just a minute, but y'all stay with me. Don't leave me. Come on back on the other side of the break, because as I say, I got something to tell you about what's happening July 1st that we as a community, especially here in the Magnolia State, we need to be aware of what's getting ready to happen. So I'm going to throw it to you, Mr. Armstrong, for a quick station break, and we're going to come on back on the other side.
We need David Archie, yeah. He's a man with a plan. David Archie, yeah. He's a man that will take a stand.
I am David L. Archie, seeking the position of Hinds County Supervisor, District 2. 4 years ago, I ran for this seat in a very close election. This time, we must give the people what they want. I've been all over Hinds County, District 2. It's a unanimous decision. The people want change.
Paid for by friends of David L. Archie, a proud WNPR underwriter.
All right, we're back. If you're just tuning in, come on in the room. Class is in session. I am your instructor, Dr. Sabrina Edmon Williams, educator, author, and investor. Opening minds and closing contracts. I am so noted. And I am so excited and so delighted this morning to be here in our studios at WNPR 90.1 FM and engaging our community in a very important conversation. We have got to reclaim our youth. We have got to reclaim our youth. Too much is happening every day. I didn't even address the headlines in the local news stories this week, just this weekend. It's too overwhelming, you guys. And there's some things that's getting ready to happen right here in the Magnolia State that makes this conversation even more urgent. What are you talking about, Dr. Williams? Beginning July 1st, here in Mississippi, the rules are changing. Somebody better start talking to these grandchildren, these nieces and nephews, these young folks in your church. Pull them aside and tell them about the new state law that will allow certain minors who commit violent crimes while in possession of a firearm to be prosecuted directly in adult court instead of youth court. The law also increases penalties for several firearm-related offenses. Do I need to say that again? Some of y'all may just be tuning in. Maybe you hadn't heard. The law is getting ready to change come July 1st. Now, what they're saying, let me just break it down. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. For all of our little young folks that want to run around and gangbang and do what they do, they got something for you now. You want to act like an adult, 15, 16 years old? We're going to treat you like an adult. We're going to take you to adult court instead of youth court. We're going to increase the penalties. You know, the money that mama and grandmama and them were able to come up with, they may not be able to come up with this kind of money now because the penalties are getting ready to change. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. For years, we've heard people say, oh, they're just kids. You know, those kids. We've been able to say they made a mistake. They deserve another chance. Well, apparently Mississippi lawmakers are sending a clear message. They don't care anything about that. When guns and violent crime are involved, the consequences are going to look more like adult consequences. And some of you may say, well, that's the way it should look. I'm not here to discuss or debate that. I'm simply the messenger delivering the message this morning. Because whether you agree with the law or disagree with the law, that's not my focus. My focus is something much deeper. What are we doing to keep our children from ever standing in front of the judge in the first place? Let me ask that again. What are we as a community doing to make sure that these children never have to go stand in front of the judge in the first place? The best legal defense is a life that never has to even enter the courtroom. The best legal defense is a life that never enters the courtroom. See, we want to talk about the criminal justice system and reforms after the arrest. But this morning, Dr. Williams wants to talk about prevention before the arrest. We want to talk about sentencing after conviction. But I want to talk about saving our children before they become defendants. Because once these young people enters that system, everybody loses. Everybody loses. The victims lose, the families lose, the community loses, and often the young person loses the most. The young person loses the most. I have a question for you this morning. If our state is increasing penalties for our children, shouldn't we be increasing our investment in our children? If the consequences are getting tougher, shouldn't mentorship be getting stronger? Shouldn't fatherhood become more intentional? Shouldn't churches become more engaged? Shouldn't community organizations become more active? We cannot demand accountability from our youth while refusing responsibility as adults. We want to talk about what these kids are not doing and how they're out of control. Many of us are out of control too. We want to talk about how they didn't take their meds. They're off their meds. Many of us are off our meds too. We want to talk about how they're suffering from mental illnesses. Many of us are the same. We cannot continue demanding accountability from our youth while refusing responsibility as adults. If the prison beds are expanding faster than opportunity, something is wrong, you guys. Something is wrong. Here's what keeps me awake at night. We're building policies to deal with symptoms. We're building policies to deal with symptoms. But are we investing enough to cure the disease? The disease is hopelessness. The disease is disconnection. The disease is lack of opportunity. The disease is a generation of young people searching for belonging in all the wrong places. And if we don't address the disease, we'll keep having the same conversations over and over and over again. Different names, different cities, different families, same heartbreak, same tears, same funerals, same prison sentences. And that's a future I simply refuse to accept, you guys. That's Dr. Williams talking. I refuse to accept that for our children because I believe in my heart and in my spirit that our children are worth fighting for. Our sons, our boys, our young men are worth fighting for. Our future is worth fighting for. So, what are we to do? Are we to continue talking about it on social media? Are we to continue showing up at the funerals? Are we to continue standing by watching as our community slowly but surely just fades away? Are we content with that? I am not. I cannot be content with that. Last year, for those of you that have recently started following the show or that were not aware, I had an experience that I shared here on air about a chance interaction with the young man at Walmart who came up to me and asked me if I would let him jump his car off because his car battery had died. And I told him I didn't have a problem with that. Well, after, I got over there, the young man looked at me, he told me he had jumper cables. So I said, sure. Well, after I got over there, he gave me this look like a deer caught in the headlights. And he says to me, do you know how to put the cables on? And I looked at him and I thought for a while. And the educator in me saw a teachable moment. Now, I know there are some of us that probably would have critiqued and would have laughed and, what a shame what his parents didn't do and this, that, and the other. But the educator in me couldn't do that. So I came back and I rallied some of my friends and resources, and we put together a day that we called Each One Teach One. We invited the community. Many of you may remember me talking about this. I talked about it for weeks. I told people it was coming. We were going to put it together, and we did. We had participation from some of the local business owners. We had participation from the Jackson Police Department, the Hinds County Sheriff Department, the Jackson Fire Department. We came together as a community, and we put our arms around our children, and we said that day that there are things that we know how to do that obviously you don't know how to do. And instead of critiquing you, instead of talking about you, laughing at you, and, disparaging you, we choose to use this day, this time, to feed into you. We choose to give you some of the wisdom that we have. We can't make assumptions that everybody knows. Just because we were fortunate enough to be exposed to things does not mean everybody was. And so we talked to our young people. We showed them how to change a flat tire, how to install the jumper cables, how to check the fluid levels in the vehicles. We showed them how to operate lawn equipment properly. We had our law enforcement officers to talk with them about conflict resolution that does not involve firearms. They talked to them about the consequences of their actions. We talked to our young people about financial planning and making good money decisions. We spent time, we invested our time with our young people. And I would like to think that I may never live long enough to see the fruits of the seeds that were planted that day. But I'm happy to say that we planted the seeds. And so this year, we're going to do it again. We're going to try it again. And we are asking our community to support the efforts. Because I know there are many that sit on the sidelines and perhaps you wonder what you can do. You want to be of more service to the community. And so we're calling upon you this morning to come out and support our efforts. This year will be, the date we have chosen is July the 18th, right before the children get ready to go back to school. We are going to do a day where, again, we're going to feed into them. It does not matter what it is that you know how to do. Don't assume that just because you know how to do it, that everybody else knows how to do it. There are some things that I still don't know. I went to the highest levels of the academy, got a whole lot of quote unquote education, but there are so many things that I still don't know how to do. Some of our ladies know how to hem pants. Dr. Williams doesn't know how to hem pants because I was talking during home economics. I was talking. Miss White was telling me to keep my mouth closed. I was talking. So I didn't learn how to do that. And I paid for it dearly through the years, simply because my waistline and my height don't quite align very well. So when I buy my clothes to fit my waist, they're often too long. That's a skill set that somebody may have that they could transfer to a young person. You can show them. You can talk them through them. Somebody showed you. Some of these young people don't know how to dress properly. I'm convinced nobody ever showed them. The amount of skin and underwear that I see every time I'm in public, somebody needs to show them what a belt is and how to use it. That's something somebody taught you, because I remember a time when the elders in the community took pride in how they looked when they presented themselves in public. Somewhere along the line, we've lost that. Our young ladies think it's okay to walk around with a bonnet on your head in public. That's a problem. That's a problem. And somebody needs to work with these babies to teach them that is not acceptable. Some of our young men don't know how to tie a tie. They don't know what a tie is. Nobody's ever showed them. You can't expect people to know things that they have never been taught to do. And so we are passionately advocating, inviting, encouraging our community to support this effort. July 18th, again, we will be at We Care Church at 139 Colonial Drive. I thank Pastor Clark and Lady Clark for opening up the congregation to us and allowing us to come in again this year. We are piggybacking off of what we did last year. Hopefully this year we will make it bigger and better. The church has some activities that they will be hosting as well, with a back to school bash. Now we're giving away some stuff, so bring those kids on. We're giving away school supplies. We're going to have food, free haircut. Some of them gonna need their haircut before they go back to school. Come on over there. We'll cut the hair for the kids, but we're also gonna teach them some things. And that's one of the things that we need to teach them. Do not go expecting when you're not willing to give. And what we're asking them to give is their time to come out and allow us to feed into them. Now, this is not just an event for the children either. It's a community event. There may be some things that you don't know how to do. There's no shame in that. I just sat here and told you. I've gone to the highest levels of the academy. I don't know everything. So it is great to have an environment where we can transfer knowledge to others. That's great to be able to do that. Now, how can you help? I'm glad you asked. And I know that's the part you've been waiting for. How can you help? You can support us by showing up. Donate some of your time. If you can't stay for the entire event, we'll be starting about 8 a.m., but we need people to show up at 6 a.m. to help us get set up. If you have a tent that we can use, it's going to be in July. It's hot outside, but we're doing it in a very shaded area. So please come out and support. Bring us some water. Kroger has water on sale, you guys. I think it's 3. You buy 3, you get 3 of the 24 packs. Go on over to Kroger before that sale goes off. I think they change the prices every Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. Go get Dr. Williams 6 cases of that water and bring it over there to We Care Church. We can use the water. Bring us a bag of ice. Contribute something to help us help our children. And if you don't want to do that, or if you can't do that, do something. Bring a child. Tell somebody about the event. Because what we don't want to do is to continue sitting around talking about the issues in our community while simultaneously not doing a darn thing to help solve the problems. That's the problem. That in and of itself is the problem. We're talking about the problems, but we're not doing anything to solve the problem. Thank you for putting that in the chat for me, Brother Brown. July 18th, We Care Church right here in the city of Jackson. We are calling on the community. We're calling on the leaders. We call your representatives. They're going to call you. You just heard a commercial just a few minutes ago when we went on break. Mr. Archie, he just called on you for your vote. Call on him. Tell him your community is trying to do something and we need his support. And I'm only calling him out because of recency. I just heard the commercial. That's just an example. I'm not picking on Mr. Archie. All these folks, they ask you for your vote. A lot of them asking you for your vote in November. Now ask them, what are they willing to do to help our community? We're trying to save our children. Come on out. Send some stuff out there. We're giving away clothes. Go in your closet. I can go in my closet. Y'all can't fit everything in that closet. Don't tell me you can't, because I know I can't fit everything in mine. Bring some clothes. There are families in the community that can benefit from these things that we have that we are not using. We're just holding on to stuff. What we're holding on to? I guess we're trying to keep hope alive. You know, some of that stuff we haven't worn Mr. Armstrong in the last 5 or 10 years, but we're still holding on to it. Bring that stuff on over there to those kids and those families, okay? That's how you can help. Bring us some food. Bring them some chips. Bring them some Freezy Pops. And, you know, it's going to be hot. Those are things that you can do. People wondering, what can I do? I can tell you a lot of ways that you can help support this event. But more than anything, bring the children. That's who we are trying to help. That's who we are trying to save. Bring the children out. Let them see what community looks like. That's why a lot of them are hopeless, because they have not seen what community looks like. Let's show them. Let's show them that we are here to support them and to help them so they are not walking around hopeless. So again, that event, you'll hear me talking about it from now up until July 18th. And if I can convince some folks around here to let me do a live broadcast, we may even be broadcasting live on that day, so that people know what we're trying to do to save our community, because nobody is coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us if we don't do it ourselves. Now, I'm looking at the clock, and I know I got to go ahead and wrap this thing up, you guys. And my heart is heavy, and I have so much I want to say. I get especially passionate when it comes to our young men, because I think back 30 years or so ago, when I became a first-time mom, and the Lord blessed me with a son, and then he blessed me with another son. And I remember thinking, I got one shot to get this right. One shot. And so I tried to feed into my boys the things that had been fed into me, because I realized what was at stake. It wasn't just about my family. It was what I was putting out into the community. And I like to think that there are days when I observe and I interact with my children that I got it right. And then there are days when I wonder. Whew. But as I prepare to leave this morning, I want to bring us back to the question we started with. Who will save our sons if we don't? Who's going to do it? Who is going to do that? Maybe the better question is, what are we doing for our youth? What are we doing? These children belong to all of us, you guys. Even if you don't birth them, they still are ours, because we are community. And so what I want us to do is not to get discouraged, be encouraged. Get involved. Don't give up on our young people. If we don't give our young people a vision for their future, somebody else will. And their vision for their future may look far different from what we envision. So here's my call to action this morning as I wrap up. First thing I ask you to do is get involved. Mentor, volunteer, coach, tutor, support youth programs, join organizations that are working with the young people. And if you don't have children, adopt a cause, get involved. If you don't have time, so many of us, we got time to go here and there and the other, but we don't have time. And I get it because nobody is any busier than Dr. Williams. But if you don't have time, invest resources. If you don't have resources, invest encouragement, but do something. Secondly, reclaim civic engagement. Stop treating voting as optional. Stop treating jury duty as an inconvenience. Stop acting as though democracy is someone else's responsibility. If we want a different outcome, we must participate in the systems that shape those outcomes. Third, challenge our young people. Love them enough to tell them the truth, you guys. Every decision has consequences. One bad decision, just one, can change the trajectory of an entire life. One moment of anger can produce a lifetime of regret. And one criminal conviction can close doors that education, talent, and hard work may never fully reopen. And finally, we need to be praying for these young people. We need to pray for their protection, pray for their wisdom, pray that they live long enough to find their purpose. Pray for their future. Because our sons need more than criticism. Our young men need more than criticism. They need direction. They need opportunity. They need accountability. They need hope. And they need us, the community. I want to thank you this morning for spending this time with me. I am your host, Dr. Sabrina Edmon Williams. This has been Soul Talks Money and More. And as I close this morning, I have to go ahead and log off both Facebook and YouTube because I don't want to get tagged for copyright infringement. But the artist Eric Benet has dropped a song recently, I think last week, where he is talking about community and basically what Dr. Williams has talked about this morning. So I want to leave you with that. And I want those words to just resonate because the honest answer is, if we don't save us, who's going to do it? Peace.
So